think that using these sounds, these words, is immoral, and it should stop at once. Be really easy. All they'd have to do is not be offended by them. They're the ones that decided to be offended. They think that anything that offends their sensitivity should stop at once. Anything that offends their sensitivities is immoral. But it rarely is. 743.
Ed Morse, your number one source for automotive value and service, of course. Ed Morse.
Looking for a used car dealer you can count on? Well, you can count on us at Ed Morse Cadillac in Brandon and Saturn of Brandon. We offer a free 100-day used car warranty with a 3-day money-back guarantee on select vehicles. That's right. You can count on us for guaranteed used cars, from pre-owned luxury Cadillacs to low-mileage value-price Saturns. We've got over 100 quality used cars in stock from as low as $189 a month for 60 months with just $1,000 down. Call 1-800-390-4445 for details. Finally, real peace of mind for used car buyers from Ed Morse Cadillac in Brandon and Saturn of Brandon on Causeway Boulevard at the south entrance of the Brandon Town Center.
Ed Morse, your number one source, of course.
There's nothing like the Ed Morse value.
Be the ninth caller right now for a chance to send your kid to Bunker Hill Military Summer Camp, Hillsboro 990. That was 461-9466.
Last week, I needed some printing done, so I went to that one place, that's open 24 hours, and I found out they just started doing printing. Just started. Hey, that's fine, I said. I'll go to an experienced printer. Besides, who needs printing done at 3 in the morning anyway?
All kinds of printing? Sure, we can do that. At Pip Printing, we offer everything you need from spot color to full color. And with years of printing experience, the difference between us and those guys is like night and day. Pip Printing, you'll be surprised at what we can do.
The last thing anyone really needs is another movie channel, unless it's a better movie channel, which is why at Stars we put more exclusive first-run movies on at prime time than any other movie channel. So instead of, say, Chopper Chicks in Zombie Town, you'll just have to enjoy The Mask.
It's party time!
We're Stars, a better movie channel. To order, call your local cable company, or 1-800-DIRECTV, or 1-800-PRIME-STAR.
Stars is a multiplex service of Encore.
I'm taking our vacation pictures to Kmart for developing. Remember that shot of the sunset?
Oh, I want a copy of that.
And the beach.
I want a copy of that.
And your husband, Mr. Wilderness, catching that fish?
He'll want a copy of that.
Tell you what, I'll get 2 sets of prints.
At Kmart, get 2 sets of prints for one low price every day. Big 4-inch prints with quality Kodak processing developed overnight.
Remember sinking the boat?
I don't want a copy of that.
Kmart's film developing 2 sets for one low price every day.
At the Kmart, everything we do is built around you.
The feast has arrived. Voted Tampa Bay's #1 talk show host, making him the king, just like Harley Race, the king of wrestling. Dark Larson, weekdays 9 till noon on 970 WFLA. I didn't hear it with my own ears, but I did get some reports today that the magnificent Lassiter stuff is really starting to grate on him. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. Oh, the food has arrived. Thanks to West Shore Pizza on West Shore and Euclid. You can give them a call at 832-5331 and eat the same food that the Stars eat. It's not flounder, but it's good. It's very good. What'd you tease me with the fish dinner for thing? I like pizza, I had no problem with that. You didn't have to tell me you're bringing in fish. Anyhow, the overstuffed gang there that are going to be gathering in the hall and talking about reclaiming heritages and cultures and morals that somehow have been stolen from them. Almost everything that they find to be distasteful is just that, distasteful. Almost everything they find to be in poor taste is just that, in poor taste. Almost none of it has anything whatsoever to do with morals. Few of these things on their list do any actual harm to anybody, other than to displease, other than to offend. But the offense is almost always a deliberate and an arbitrary decision on the part of the offended. Like the words they don't like the images that they don't like. Now, these fine folks longing for the good old days, they can gather in halls and auditoriums from coast to coast, from border to border, and they can listen to all the overstuffed, washed-up politicians from England that they can drag in here. And you know what? Nothing's going to change. They can make speeches to each other from sunrise to sunset. And you know what? Nothing's going to change. Nothing will change because they will not once attempt to really identify the root cause of the things going on in our society that really are, that really are immoral. That really are immoral. You see, the real immorality in this country doesn't faze them in the least. So what really is immoral? Did you ever think about that? What really is immoral? That's a very strong word. Morality, immoral. I mean, good God, it's a stupid question, huh? What really is immoral? It's whatever I say it is. Right? At least that's what would appear to be the answer, the easy answer. But you see, real, true immorality is far, far, far more complex. It's more complex because it's something that we don't want to deal with. Immorality has to do with treating others in a harmful manner, in a way that does them real harm, not just offend someone's sensitivities.
970 WFLA and Shoney's Restaurants have teamed up to raise money for the Leukemia Society of America. This month, pick up a coupon book at any participating Shoney's for a $1 donation that'll save you over $40 on Shoney's items and local attractions. From Shoney's and 970 WFLA.
Tonight, reach for something your whole family will love.
Pastoroni.
So much fun to eat.
Pastoroni. This evening's ice cream.
Pastoroni. Tasty pasta and sauce combinations seasoned in a way that could only come from Rice-A-Roni. Like a rich, creamy Parmesano. Another delicious side dish from Rice-A-Roni.
Pastoroni. The San Francisco treat.
He's right, he's vigilant in the store. Imitation brands that better beware of postman.
Mrs. James?
Yes?
I'm postman.
Yeah? Where's your mailbag?
I'm not your postman. I'm the man from Post Cereals.
Oh, postman.
I have reason to believe you've been buying imitation brand Raisin Bran.
Imitation Raisin Bran?
Not Post Premium Raisin Bran.
Get out of town.
Ma'am, give up the boxes.
I don't have them.
Yeah, and I'm the tooth fairy.
All right. They're right over here.
Look at this knockoff brand Raisin Bran.
They're a little cheaper.
Doesn't your family prefer Post Premium Raisin Bran?
Yeah, but...
Post Premium Raisin Bran has hundreds of raisins in every box.
Hundreds?
And they're not just any raisins. They're plump, juicy, sun-made raisins.
Sun-made raisins?
And big, crispy flakes.
Big, crispy flakes?
See you later, alligator.
Huh?
Tune in next time as Postman catches a stingy nanny giving innocent children imitation brand Raisin Bran.
Get the most from Post.
Attention, automotive shoppers in the Tampa Bay area. St. Pete Jeep Eagle has just revolutionized used car buying by taking the mystery out of shopping. Each and every used car on the St. Pete Jeep Eagle lot is plainly marked with a bottom line price. No mystery. You know the price all the time. Just walk through the St. Pete Jeep Eagle used car lot and pick the vehicle that fits your budget. You can even shop when St. Pete Jeep Eagle is closed. Choose from domestics, imports, Jeeps, luxury cars, economy cars. They're all plainly marked with the low prices. Should you be in the market for a new vehicle, be advised that St. Pete Jeep Eagle has hundreds of new cars and Jeeps available. So come to St. Pete Jeep Eagle now and see how they've taken the mystery out of used car buying with a posted low price on each vehicle. Consumers should note that St. Pete Jeep Eagle is located on US 19 south of Pinella Square Mall. If you are unfamiliar with the area, look up St. Pete Jeep Eagle in the white pages and call for directions.
Okay, let's do a little test here. Kind of a little pop quiz. I'm sure that you're a smart person, smart man, smart woman, and you know what is moral and what isn't moral. I'm sure you do. Okay, so let's do this little test here. Is it immoral for a man to walk down the street, to walk down, Hillsborough Avenue, with his Johnson hanging out? Pull his zipper down and just let his Johnson hang out. Is that immoral? Oh, but a lot of you say it is. I'm not so sure. I mean, granted, it may be very distasteful, it may be, offensive, but it doesn't do any real harm, does it? No, it doesn't do any real harm. Okay, let's see about this. Is it immoral to exploit the labors of others? Is that immoral? Is it immoral to, kind of fudge on a business deal? Oh, yeah, Mr. Johnson, if you buy my product, your sales will go up 33%. When you know they won't. Would that be immoral? See, most of the stuffed shirts do not consider exploiting labor to be immoral. They do not consider fudging on a business deal to be immoral, even though real hardship may result to the poor slob on the other end, huh? They don't consider that to be immoral. Another example, it would be considered immoral for a woman to expose her breast, wouldn't it? Oh, immorality! But it's usually not considered immoral for an executive to pay himself millions upon millions upon millions of dollars while paying so little to his employees that they can't afford decent housing or even medical care for themselves or their families. It's not considered immoral, is it? Exposing your breasts is. But paying your employees so little they can't afford medical care for their children isn't. It's generally considered immoral for a woman to expose her breasts in public, isn't it? But it's not considered immoral for a nation to waste irreplaceable natural resources or to refuse to pay its bills, passing along crushing debt to the next generation because they're just too damn cheap to pay for what they want. So please excuse me for, not being terribly clear on just what this conference is all about, because I don't think they're going to be talking about any of this kind of stuff. It's probably going to be kind of like a Jimmy Swaggart prayer meeting. They're going to be prancing back and forth on the stage to a group who's sober, telling them it's, immoral to take drugs. They're going to be prancing back and forth on a stage telling a group of people who, don't fornicate that it's immoral to fornicate. But they're not going to mention the things I just mentioned. So you'll understand, won't you, why I'm being a little bit suspicious as to what these people are really talking about? I mean, in terms of the things I just mentioned, this has never been a moral nation. Never. So what is it that we have supposedly lost? What the hell is it that we're supposedly trying to reclaim? And what is this lost cultural heritage crap all about? I'm not English. I don't want to be part of their heritage. I'm not an Italian. I don't want to be part of their heritage. I'm not an Asian or an African or a German. I don't want any part of their heritage. I'm not putting any of them down, mind you. It's just that none of them are my heritage. In fact, just what does this heritage thing mean anyhow? Whose heritage? The very word makes me kind of uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? As a general rule of thumb, the only people I hear talking about heritage, frankly, have kind of ugly histories. I mean, racial supremacists, they talk about that kind of stuff. The descendants of slave masters, they talk about that kind of stuff. Losers, they talk about that kind of stuff. Okay, so maybe I could be a little more charitable here. Things like language and customs. I guess you could call them, heritage. I guess they would fall into the category of heritage. But I'm living in a country where until just a few centuries ago, the language was not English, it was Cherokee and Seminole. Or until just a few centuries ago, the customs bore no resemblance to what they are today. A lot of the stuffed shirts who are very concerned about things like language and customs are descendants of the people who changed them. A few centuries ago, their ancestors barged into this land and displaced the people who had occupied it for far longer than the stuffed shirts have occupied it. The forefathers of the stuffed shirt simply said, "Hey, too bad." I'm kind of reminded of an old saying, paybacks are hell. But believe it or not, I understand where the morality and heritage crowd are coming from, because I also share many of their angers and many of their frustrations, even some of their unreasonable demands. Honestly, I do. They ain't perfect. About the only thing that separates me from them is that at least I'm more honest, more intellectually honest. I mean, I admit to my shortcomings and my faults. I make at least some effort to address them. Not always with a hell of a lot of success, but at least I, kind of try a little bit, maybe. The bottom line is that at least I concede that everyone is right and everyone is wrong, that the only solution is some form of compromise, some kind of a middle ground here. There's a line from a W.C. Fields movie that comes to mind. Never give a sucker an even break. It's about the worst possible set of words to live by. If you live by those words, if you never give a sucker an even break, you're going to perish. For sure, no doubt about it. And we are a nation that has tried its damnedest to never give a sucker an even break. And little by little, step by step, we have lost ground. The suckers are making life miserable for a lot of us, especially the morality and heritage crowd. One of morality and heritage crowd are dinosaurs on the brink of distinction. They're basically the most immoral group of people on this planet, trying desperately to hang on to a heritage that they would do very well to dump, and fast. At least that's the way I see it. Perchance you disagree. Let me give you the telephone numbers, Bubba. In Hillsborough, 990-WFLA. In Pinellas, 461-WFLA. The GTE MobileNet Star line, 970-STAR. And I'm sure that there are people out there who can explain to me just exactly what reclaiming America's moral and cultural heritage means. Aren't there?
From the Penthouse Studio at the palatial J-Court Tower on Gandy Boulevard, it's the Bob Lassiter Show. Starring the king of radio, the magnificent Lassiter. And featuring Board Up to the Stars, Flounder. And the world's most dangerous news guy, Paul Mann. And now, with Altar Boys in tow, Mr. Lassiter.
Welcome back, Fun Seekers, hour number 2, April the 16th of Tuesday, 1996. Without any further ado, let us immediately go to the telephones and say hello to Mike in St. Petersburg. Hi, Mike in St. Petersburg. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Wow, long time no hear. I tell you what, you may not, I think you will remember me if I tell you that I sang a song for you one time on the air.
You know, Mike, I just finished spending an hour of my life talking about something that is incredibly important, and you apparently heard a promo earlier today about tonight I was doing a very special edition of the Bob Lassiter Show where you call up and schmooze and tell jokes. That's tomorrow night, Mike. It's not tonight. Yeah, it's tomorrow night.
Okay,
Thanks ever so much for calling. No, you can't call me back tomorrow night, Mike. I'm being as rude and as sarcastic as I possibly know how to be. I deliberately went to your call so that I could humiliate you. There are apparently some people that don't know how I play the game. So let me tell you how I play the game. There are days I come in here and I let you know that we're just kind of going to goof. And there are other days I come in here and I talk to you about things that are deadly serious. And if you can't handle the things that are deadly serious, go someplace else. And I just talked to you about something that's deadly serious. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at an absolutely empty Fnortner because you can't deal with it. That's okay. I have primarily two options. You see, I don't do things like other people do. Basically, other people at this point of the game would say, hey, Madonna's preggers, how do you feel about that? No, I'm going to hold your damn feet to the fire because we're talking about something that is really, really, really important. It's important in your life and it's important in my life. We're talking about a nation that has its head stuck in the sand. We're talking about a group of fine middle-class white folk who see this country gone to hell in a handbasket, and they just can't figure out why. So they're all going to get together in halls all across this country and talk to each other about how this country's... You see, there are things that they don't like. They're worried about the culture. They're worried about their heritage. You know what that really means? It means they're scared crapless about the darkies and the gooks and the spicks. And they just can't figure out what in the hell to do about it. They open their eyes and they see all kinds of strange things. Let me see if I can't spell this out for you so that even you can understand it. Some of those dark people, you know, especially the younger ones. You ever notice how they don't act like you? They don't talk like you. They don't want to listen to your music. They don't want anything to do with you. They dress weird. They act weird. Did you ever wonder about that? Did you ever wonder about why it is that they go so far out of their way to be so much unlike you? It's astonishing. There's really a very simple answer to it. They're just like you. Yeah, they're just like you. Let me see if I can give you an example. Do you dress a certain way? Or maybe you try to emulate the style of, I don't know, an English rock group or a football team or whatever it might be. You see, those darkies and those gooks and those spicks, they're just like you. They try to emulate that which they think there's some good in. That they can have some identification with. It's why kids try to, dress like their favorite rock stars or comb their hair like their favorite rock stars. They want to be like something that they see some good in. And they want to be anything but like things that they don't see any good in. And that's why there are so many people in this country today who just don't look like you, and who just don't act like you, and who just don't talk like you, and who just don't dress like you, and who just don't do anything like you. And they try to be as different from you as they can possibly be. They have their own language, even. Yeah, I'm very concerned about for example, in certain parts of this country, the Spanish thing. Oh, I'm very concerned about that. Did you ever wonder why it is that these people come here and they don't want to speak English? Did you ever wonder? I mean, the people that came here who spoke Slavovian, they tried to learn how to speak English as quickly as possible. This group doesn't. Did you ever wonder why? It's really easy to figure out, isn't it? It's really easy to figure out. It's because we've become a very ugly people, and people don't want to be like us. That's why. So that group of people, they can go and sit in all the halls all they want, and they can talk all they want about reclaiming this and about reclaiming that and the morals and the heritage and this and the culture and that and so forth and so on, and it ain't going to change. And they're just slowly going to lose. They're just slowly going to lose, and someday they are going to be a minority. Someday in the very near future. And it didn't have to be that way. It didn't have to be that way at all. But that's the way it's going to be. And they can import every washed-up English politician they want to come there and tell them how to lead their lives, and it ain't going to help. So I'm going to ask you again. Just what does that mean, reclaiming America's moral and cultural heritage? Just what does that mean? Family values, just what does that mean? It is a bunch of empty words. Nothing more, nothing less, by desperate people who refuse to deal with the truth, by desperate people who refuse to deal with reality. They know there's something wrong. Oh, my God, they know there's something wrong. But they just won't deal with reality. And now I'm finished. I've said everything I have to say. The rest of it is up to you, and if I have to sit here drumming my hands on the counter from now until 10 o'clock, I'll do it. Because I ain't letting you off the hook. And you ain't going to call up and tell jokes. Well, hey, do you remember me? I called you once 7 years ago, and I said, no, I don't remember you. I have a life. Simple as that. I think you know what the telephone numbers are, don't you? And you can either set me straight, or you can sit there in silence. I don't care. I don't really get paid by the phone call. That's kind of shtick. Have I made myself clear? I certainly do hope so. I certainly do hope so. See, I told you the first night I came back, I'm here to make your head hurt. I'm here to yank the rug out from underneath you every chance I get. There ain't no free ride on this show. I'm not here to hold your hand. I'm just here to make your life miserable. That's my purpose in life. And I enjoy it immensely. Absolutely immensely. Well, we're going to take a little break. That's what we're going to do. And when we come back, either the phenomenon will be full and twinkling and smoking, and you'll have something to say one way or the other. I don't care which way. Doesn't make any difference to me. Or I'm going to sit here and drum my fingers from now until 10 o'clock. Call's yours. Difficult job here at 970 WFLA. We're trying to keep on the cutting edge of technology with an audience that primarily lives under rocks and in caves. But we're part of the information superhighway. And you can check us out at 970WFLA.com. And if you don't know what that means, if that sounds like a foreign language to you, don't even worry about it. You can email the hosts, management, anybody you want. And much of it we even read. Some of it we even pay attention to. So that's like at 970WFLA.com. Check out the webpage. They went to a lot of trouble, and it's a pretty damn good webpage. Pretty damn good webpage. I've seen fancier schmancier ones, but my God, they cost $50,000 and $60,000 to put together. Fingers and Flounder did this, in a weekend with, an old joint it was half a joint, actually, they found on the couch, and a quarter of a bottle of Jack. Turned out pretty good. Let's go to Dan in Tampa. Hi, Dan in Tampa. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Lassiter.
Yes, sir.
I would like to predict that at this Thatcher meeting in Clearwater, you will not hear not one of them addressing the morality of depriving individuals of their right to earn a living or a warm meal and a clean bed at least once a day, or a doctor when they're ill or their children are sick.
Well, I don't know that anybody has a right to a warm meal or a clean bed or anything like that. I'm positive nobody has a right to that. But it would definitely be something that they will avoid like the plague if you wanted to talk about the immorality of paying people so little that they can't afford those things.
And therefore a right to earn a living. I'm thinking of Thomas Jefferson, who would have viewed the right of employment as the means to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Well, Thomas also kept slaves.
Well,
something we tend to to forget. He didn't believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all people. He believed in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for white men.
He was a pragmatist, and he was doing what best he could to survive, as all of us do. He would have liked to see his slaves free. He saw that that was not possible in his time. But these same people who don't care about the rights of others, nonetheless, you will hear them talking of paying off this deficit that they created, and who hold a huge claim to this deficit. They hold the bonds, and we, the taxpayers, pay their interest of this $5 trillion deficit. So yes, I believe you're right when it comes to discussing morality. What morality are we speaking of? Theirs or ours? I feel you're very right in what you're addressing, and I'm with you on it completely.
Thank you, dude. Appreciate it. 990 WFLA in Hillsborough, 461 WFLA in Pinellas. Let us go to Tampa. Hi, Tampa. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hey, Lassiter.
Yeah.
The person who needs morals is you.
Oh, Jesus.
Yes, oh, Jesus. Never mind about that. That's who needs morals. You need to go to this bloody meeting, and you need to get yourself some bloody morals. That's what you need to do. Maggie Thatcher is a world leader, renowned. The historians will note that down.
Yeah.
And you need to go and listen to what she's going to say.
Yeah, she's an ass kisser.
And now how does she make it an ass kisser? Go on, tell me.
It's very simple. She, helps to do things like perpetuate the absurdity of royalty.
No, she didn't. As it happens, if you know anything, she was against royalty in Britain. That's why she made the Queen pay taxes.
She never made the Queen pay taxes.
Yeah,
the Queen pays taxes voluntarily, not by law, not by Constitution.
You don't know anything about it.
Yes, I do know. Unfortunately, I know more about it than you'd like me to know about it.
Right, yeah. And where did you learn all this then?
I read the newspaper.
When all this history went down?
I read the newspaper. What do you mean, where was I when all this history went down?
Yeah, exactly. It was only 10 years ago. Where was you?
What are you talking about?
About Maggie Thatcher being an anti-royalist.
She is not an anti-royalist. She has never spoken out against royalty. She has never spoken out against colonization.
Colonization?
Yeah, colonization.
What colonies does Great Britain have now?
Unfortunately, virtually none, and they're really pissed about it, aren't they?
They gave them all up. They gave everybody their independence, including this country.
Yeah, because they could no longer hold it. Not because they were decent human beings who realized the errors of their ways, because they could no longer hold it.
Exactly the same way as the Puerto Ricans feel.
I beg your pardon, Puerto Rico is not a colony.
No, but it might as well be.
As a matter of fact, we ship money to Puerto Rico. We don't suck money out of it.
Oh, you don't suck money out of anywhere. The Panama Canal. Why do you keep your own troops down there?
Because we have, unfortunately, a bunch of military fanatics in this country that still live in the dark ages.
Right.
That are worried about the vile Chinese sneaking over here and attacking Long Island using the Panama Canal.
Yeah, I don't think so somehow. And you know exactly the reason. It's through commerce and money.
No, I beg your pardon. Most of the big ships don't fit through the Panama Canal anymore, and they're not going to ever fit through the Panama Canal again.
You see, there's corruption everywhere. Admit it.
It is an obsolete base that the likes of the people who, by the way, like Maggie Thatcher, refuse to give up.
They still keep the bloody tabs on the Panama Canal because of the importance to the U.S. economy.
Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, that room is going to be filled with people who are so damn mad at Jimmy Carter for trying to give back the Panama Canal they can't see straight.
Do you think so?
Yeah, and Maggie Thatcher's one of them.
No, you don't know anything about Maggie Thatcher.
I know enough.
Well, you know enough. Come on, give me one reason why she's an ass-kissing person.
I just did. You want more?
You didn't. I want one.
Because she believes in the class system.
Sorry?
Because she believes in the class system. She headed up a nation that worships the class system.
She believes in the class system. That's why she was a grocer's daughter. Oh,
yeah, maybe she's a grocer's daughter, but she sure as hell climbed above it and hobnobbed with the House of Lords.
Right, and how else was she going to try and institute her own policies?
Where people serve by appointment.
You know, you need to read up on Maggie Thatcher. You really do. You need to read up on her, and, you know, then that way you'll be in a position to be able to speak about her, instead of just saying she's an ass-kicker,
Well, let us suppose that Maggie Thatcher is the most wonderful, most marvelous human being on the face of the earth. Let us suppose that I am 102% wrong on anything I have ever said, ever thought, ever dreamt about Maggie Thatcher. Let us suppose that to be a fact. I still question very seriously why the keynote speaker at recapturing America's lost cultural and moral past is a foreigner.
Well, you know, to be honest with you, I agree with you, and I think that this thing that they've got going on down there is for money reasons, right? When they're charging $200 a place to go in there, right? Yes, I believe that you're right. But then again, that's capitalism for you, and it goes on every day, and it goes on in every Western so-called civilized country in the world where there's capitalism. And you ain't going to stop it, and, you know, whatever they want to call it, anti-communist, you know, gathering or, you know, sort of morals, let's bring back the morals, whatever you call it, it's still better than having nothing, isn't it?
No, it's not.
It isn't. So
no, because it's hiding. It's hiding from the fact that the morals, the culture, the heritage that they're talking about are some of the darkest areas of this country's past. The days that they would like to go back to are some of the darkest days in this country's past.
So you know now, before it even starts, what they're going to talk about?
I know they're not going to talk about any things I talked about.
How do you know what they're going to talk about?
Because I know what these people consider to be moral and what they do not consider to be moral.
So you know these people?
Sure do.
No, you don't.
And I also know something else.
Go on.
Yeah, we'd be a hell of a lot better in this country if you'd go back to Australia where you came from. 990 WFLA in Hillsborough, in Pinellas 461 WFLA. Coming up on the magic hour of 8:30. Our thanks to the pizza makers to the stars, West Shore Pizza, for this evening's feast. And a feast it was. West Shore and Euclid, or you can give them a call at 832-5331, and you too can have a pizza from the pizza makers to the stars, West Shore Pizza. Wasn't flounder, but it was good. It was very good. Let's go to Tampa. Hi, Tampa. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, I was calling to let you know about why they were actually going to this social, this thing. I'm sorry, it's the first time calling. I'm very nervous.
You're doing fine.
The reason that they're basically at this conference because they're looking at why the basic state of the society, and they're saying to themselves, this isn't right according to their own moral. If you will, I don't know if you call it moral standards. This is not a key, key to what they consider as okay.
Well, they want to know what's wrong with society. They do a hell of a lot better to go into the bathroom than they would to go to wherever the hell this meeting is being held.
Well,
most bathrooms have a great big mirror.
Well, it makes them feel better if someone really famous is there. I think that would be the only reason that, you know what I mean?
No, it makes them feel better when they're told that they're not part of the problem, that it's, always somebody else. It's not them.
Whenever someone can look at a problem from a overhead view, if you will, that's when they consider it an okay thing. When they say that, hey, we're not the cause of the problem, but let's talk about who is. And then they get into, I don't know. They want to go back to a time that is impossible to go back to, but this time that everything was just all good for them, basically. And it's just impossible to do.
Well, there is absolutely, positively no doubt whatsoever, no discussion whatsoever about the fact that things are going on in this country that are not good, that are not positive, that there are people in this country who do not have the values that I wish that they had, who do not have the optimism that I wish that they had, who don't want to be part of this country. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But no one is trying to figure out why. And they're not going to go there to try to figure out why at this meeting either.
I think that they are trying to figure out their view as to why the problem is because, well, for example, I personally know of a couple of people that say that their view of the reason that everything is going wrong is because there's no prayer in schools. And it's weird.
That's one of the things you're going to hear. You're going to hear things like, those dark people should stop taking dope, without ever asking why the dark people take dope.
Right.
Because they ain't got nothing else.
Well, I mean, I've seen, and I don't know. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff. I came from a Christian school, and I was force-fed a lot of stuff that I didn't quite agree with until I was treated with the kind of treatment that they say is against their morals, but it's okay for them to do. Then it caused me to wonder. But what I'm really concerned about is that I see that they can make it, that they have these statistics that they say 1960, I'm not familiar with the number, but I think it's 1963 or something, prayer went out of school, and then they show all these charts saying that everything that they consider bad happened worse ever since then or something like that.
There's one thing they didn't tell you. Do you know what percentage of the nation's public schools, when the Supreme Court passed that, or came down with that ruling, handed down that ruling, do you know what percentage of the nation's public schools had daily prayer? 15.
I really have the foggiest idea.
15% of the nation's public schools.
Really?
Still, yeah, really.
You see, they didn't tell us that.
No, of course they didn't, because they are desperate for simple-minded solutions. I have nothing whatsoever against an individual sitting down and holding a conversation with his or her God.
Right.
Asking for guidance, asking for advice, just to check in and say, hi, I'm still here, how you doing? Thanks for, whatever. I have no problem with that whatsoever. As a matter of fact, if it makes you feel better, then therefore I literally encourage it. But when you kid yourself into thinking that some type of mass prayer is going to solve the problems that we have, you are doing just that, kidding yourself, and all you're doing is making the problems worse because you're avoiding what the real problem is.
Right. As long as there's people like you that bring us to make us, research our information. I've noticed that there was a couple of callers since I've listened to you that have said outlandish things that you've said, back it up. And as long as there are people that will ask for proof for numbers, I didn't know that there was only 15% of people of those schools that had prayer. They never told us that.
Okay, let me go back and qualify this. I can't guarantee that it was 15% of the schools, but it was 15% of the school population. One of the reasons for that would be, let's take, like, for example, the Northeast, where you have very large groups of Jews, and large groups of Catholics, and large groups of Protestants, and large groups of, who knows what else. It caused very severe problems, really severe problems, so they just on their own kind of put it aside. In communities where virtually everybody is of, the same basic religion, it didn't cause any problems. It wasn't any problem at all, so they continued to do it right up until they were forbidden to do so by the Supreme Court decision. So I feel more comfortable with 15% of the school population than 15% of the schools, because that might be incorrect.
Okay, well, I mean, as long as there's... I mean, what I'm trying to get to is that as long as people, and please emphasize this, as long as people question where people come up with these numbers, I mean, we'll be a lot better off, because if you take a number that someone just might as well just grabbed out of the air at face value, you could be completely misinformed, as I was.
Hey, thank you, my young friend.
All right.
Appreciate you being part of it.
I thank you.
Be good. Coming up on 8:40. Going behind the headlines on the big stories of the day, AM Tampa Bay, 5 till 9 on 970 WFLA. You see, I am just, I guess, the scourge of the average person in this country, because empty, meaningless words drive me insane. As an example, the family value. Vote for me, I'm the family values candidate. Well, believe it or not, I too am in favor of family values. And I certainly do wish that everybody in this country had family values, whatever the hell it means. I'm still not really sure, but I'm very much in favor of them. However, if you and your family have no values, there's frankly not a damn thing I can do about it, and there's not a damn thing that anybody can do about it. The only possible thing that I and anybody else could do is to make it possible for you to find family values and to make them a part of your life. That's the only thing I can possibly do, is to make it possible for you to find them and to adopt them. There's nothing I can do to force them on you. And the only way I know of to make it possible for you is to relieve you of the burden of trying to survive. That's all I can do. And if you're relieved of the burden of trying to survive, then you might be able to have the luxury that I and a lot of other families in this country have found of finding those values. Because it's very difficult to have values when you're struggling to survive. Scraping, clawing, trying to survive. Let's go to Lutz and Mike. Hi, Mike. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
I'm sure glad that Victor Kayem is going to be there.
Oh, yeah. I think he's got a little kiosk set up to sell shavers or something.
Well, if your listeners don't know about him, he was the guy who owned the New England Patriots, who, when they had a woman sports writer come into the locker room, which is pretty much commonplace now and has been for some time, some of the players did some really obscene things to her. Really obscene things? Yes. And things that they should have been arrested for. Pardon? Things that they should have been arrested for and would have been arrested for had they not worn the glorious uniform of the NFL. Right, and his position was that she asked for it by being in the locker room. Those are real family values, because I know if my daughter was in there, or my wife, or, I would certainly want her to be treated that way, too. That's family values. Yeah. But I also find something else that I find is amazing. People preaching to me about family values. Who the hell are you to even suggest that I don't have family values? I mean, first of all, I have never been divorced. I have never left my wife and gave her divorce papers while she's having cancer surgery. Who could you be talking about? Oh, I don't know. Yeah. I have never, that was Newt Gingrich, obviously. I have never been like David Capon, been addicted to pornography and licking semen off the walls of the adult bookstores, which he admits to. I mean, I never did that. I have never, ever done the things that some of these moral people have discussed. For example, you look at everybody seems to say Bill Clinton's not a moral person. At least him and Hillary are still married. Yep. Better than I can say for Dole with his wife. And that's better than I can say for Reagan, who was our first divorced president, or Gingrich, or Phil Graham. They say
Bill Clinton is also not a moral man because he was a draft dodger. Yet you look at all these people that were running. They also did the same thing he did, even though Bob Dole was a war hero.
No, actually, they didn't do the same thing that Clinton did, because Clinton at least wrote them a letter and said, I'm not going.
Well, you know, that's true. But it just seems to me, I just sit back and I look at morality. Probably the most vilified person in modern politics, I'm talking about the last 10 years or so, has been Jimmy Carter. I mean, he wasn't even allowed at the last Democratic convention because they didn't even want his name to be brought up.
Perhaps the most decent man.
Yet if there was ever a moral man, it's Jimmy Carter.
Perhaps the most decent man to have held the office, surely in the last 50 or 100 years anyway.
And then we'll find Maggie Thatcher.
Not a taint of scandal, nothing associated with that man's name, just a decent human being.
Oh, you mean Habitat for Humanity and all those things that he does?
You got it.
Doggone it. You know, we talk about morality, yet there would be people out there, who would vilify him today for whatever reason. Then we find Maggie Thatcher, who happens just absolutely love Ronald Reagan. And here was a man who had absolutely no family values whatsoever when we really sit down and say, what are family values? For example, next Christmas, we're going to get together with our children and my new grandson. We're all going to get together, and all the relatives and all the people that I know, and we're going to have a really good time. Yet Ronald Reagan's children were not even invited to the White House. He never attended church. He didn't belong to a church. And what I'm saying is I hear these people giving lip service to family values. And I resent it very much. I've been married for 27 years. My wife and me have had good times and bad times. But when I made a commitment to be married to her, I took that very seriously.
Yeah, and I take people telling me, to be moral like they are, and things that you've been talking about. I take that real seriously too, and it really, really disturbs me.
I always find that people who wear these things on their sleeves really, really has some demons and some devils inside. Otherwise, if I'm a moral person, I can walk down the street serene and know what I am. I don't need to walk down the street screaming, I'm moral, I'm moral, I'm moral, be like me, you have to be like me, and if you can't be like me, I'll pass laws to make you like me. And I don't have to be like David Capon. I can drive by an adult bookstore, and I don't have to go in. I don't need to have a law passed that says I can't go in. Unfortunately for people like him, since he can't control his own immorality,
well, he says he
has to have a law passed to do it.
He says he can now, but I don't know. Time will tell.
But I just know this about the man. The man was a sick puppy. From the words that's out in the community.
That's what he said in his book.
Pardon?
That's what he said in his own book.
That's absolutely right. He was a sick puppy. And here this guy is now. That's another thing. The thing that always bothered me was, when I was a teacher at one time, and I would get, there would be a guest speaker that would come in that would be a drug addict, a reformed drug addict.
Of course.
And sit there and preach to kids how to keep off drugs. Well, let me tell you something. I don't take drugs, and I don't need anybody to tell me how not to do it. And I've never murdered anybody, and I certainly don't need, who's the guy, oh my goodness, the guy that killed all the people up in Gainesville?
Are you talking about Bundy?
Bundy, right. I don't need Bundy to tell me that pornography caused all of this. I don't need these type of people that have done these terrible things to preach to me on how to live. I can live my own life. I can make judgments for right and wrong. And I can live with my mistakes.
Maybe you ought to rent a hall and hold a seminar on values and morality and things like that. Sounds to me like you know a hell of a lot more about it. Hey, Guy, I got to get out of here.
Bye, Bob.
Hey, thanks. 990 WFLA in Hillsboro, 461 WFLA in Pinellas. I like that nice, relaxing after-dinner music. Flounder would have been better, but the pizza was very good. And that music kind of helps it settle in and digest. Let's go to Clearwater and David. David, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Well, we certainly had a new definitions here. Someone walking down the street nude is okay, but it's not okay to be nude in the locker room.
I don't believe I said it was okay.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I said it was tasteless.
All right, let's say it's not immoral.
No, it's not immoral. It has nothing whatsoever to do with morals.
But you agreed with this guy here that it was immoral in the locker room. The previous caller.
There's a real big difference between walking down the street with your Johnson hanging out of your pants and assaulting someone or threatening to assault someone, isn't there?
No one was assaulted or threatened.
Oh, I beg your pardon. She felt very threatened.
By who?
By the players.
What? By the players?
Yes.
Which players?
I don't know their names.
Oh, you don't know their names?
No, I don't know their names. Nope.
No, you don't know their names.
You
don't have any knowledge of the incident at all, and you're just fabricating this stuff.
No, I'm not fabricating. It's something that actually happened. Unfortunately, I do not have all of the details available to me at my fingertips here. You've got me on that one, yeah.
Okay, well...
And on top of that, by the way, I didn't bring it up. A caller did.
Okay, well, you seem to prefer the political and cultural foundations of another country. Which country do you prefer?
I don't believe I said I preferred any other country.
You don't like the foundations politically and culturally of this country.
No, I'm just honest about them, sir.
Of another country.
I'm just honest about them. I'm not hiding from the fact that the things that I said are true. And much of the early part of this country is nothing to be proud of.
Are those things that you don't think we should be proud of conditions that prevailed in other countries also?
Doesn't make any difference.
Doesn't make any difference.
No, it doesn't make any difference
so
because
the discussion
tonight is about reclaiming the cultural heritage of this country. I'm just curious as to what cultural heritage I want to reclaim.
Well, maybe things like the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, perhaps.
Bill of Rights. Oh, there's a very interesting document. Have you read it?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Talks about savages and how some human beings are only 3/5 of a man.
You're totally wrong. That is not in the Bill of Rights, number 1.
You're right. That's the Declaration of... No, it's in the Declaration of Independence.
No, it's in the... No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
You don't know anything. It's in the body of the Constitution.
No, I beg your pardon. It's in the Declaration of Independence, and it does talk about savages.
That's in the body of the Constitution.
Okay,
and this is allocating... This is allocating what we today call slaves.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the representation among the states.
Uh-huh.
It does not, the Constitution...
Are you proud of that, by the way?
These were slaves. The Constitution does not bar and does not lower the proportionate voting power of free blacks.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had slavery. Virtually every country in the world has had slavery. The Bible has slavery.
Yeah.
That's the way conditions existed throughout recorded history.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Big deal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In fact,
you're not ashamed of that.
If you are opposed to slavery, I would think you would be very, very pleased with the people you don't like, the evangelical Christians, that in this country led the fight to abolish slavery.
They led the fight to abolish slavery. I'll be damned.
Who do you think did it?
I don't know, and it was the evangelical Christians. I'll be darned. That's incredible.
Well, it's a good thing I called. See, you're learning something.
Yes, it is. Did you have more to teach?
You don't like actually led the fight to destroy something
Excuse me. Did you have more to teach me? Because if you do, I'll be glad to put you on hold and bring you back after the news.
Sure, why not?
Oh, okay. So we'll continue our lessons here after the news.
From Tampa, Florida, America's next great city. Yeah, and I'm the Queen of England. It's the world-famous Bob Lassiter Show, starring the magnificent Lassiter, and featuring Flounder at the controls, God help us, and the world's most dangerous news guy, Paul Mann. And now, entertaining talk radio for the rest of the 90s, or until his contract runs out, Mr. Lassiter.
8 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. Welcome back. Third, final one for this particular Tuesday, April the 16th, 1996. Is that a Flubber, the Love Grunge T-shirt you're wearing? Oh, maybe you'll be fortunate enough to be able to work with him one of these days. You know, since you already have the wardrobe. Yes. Let us go back to David in Clearwater. David, that was a fascinating piece of history you gave us about the evangelical movement leading the fight against slavery in this country. The evangelicals are a relatively loose group of people, aren't they? Hello?
What do you mean loose? You mean hard to define?
Yeah.
They could be considered hard to define. Obviously, what
I mean, the evangelicals
today differ from what it was in the early 1800s.
Evangelicals would really encompass several score, if not several hundred, different churches and denominations, wouldn't they?
Absolutely, although the evangelicals of the time tended to be those in New England, for example.
So the evangelical movement is more of a state of mind type of thing than an organized, cohesive unit, correct?
There's no one single power over it, that is true.
Would you consider, for example, like Jerry Falwell, is he an evangelical Christian?
Based upon what little I know about him, I suppose he would, which of course has nothing to do with the people, primarily New England sorts of people, that led the anti-slavery movement in the early 1800s.
Are you familiar with the passages in the Bible that Jerry Falwell, as well as a lot of other, what I guess you could refer to as evangelical Christian ministers, used up until about 20 years ago to justify segregation?
Number one, the anti-slavery movement had nothing to do with segregation or anti-segregation. Are we talking about 1800 to 1860? Or are we talking about? I
don't know. You're the one that brought it up, and I'm trying to learn here. I'm just trying to learn.
That's why I brought it up, because we were discussing the anti-slavery movement, which is what you presented.
And how is it that nothing really seems to ever show up, like in the history textbooks about the evangelicals in the forefront of the anti-slavery? I guess that has to do with the, vile bedwetting liberals.
I suggest you read your history book. What was on
I've read my history books. I've never heard of anything like this. I've never heard anything about this at all.
Well, I'm surprised, because it's...
Uncle Tom's
Who do you think led the anti-slavery movement?
Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yes, Harriet Beecher Stowe. You probably heard of her.
Yes, I have, and that's a book that documents the evangelicals being in the forefront of the anti-slavery movement.
No, it was basically a propaganda book detailing how bad slavery was and encouraging people to rail against it, as you well know.
Yeah.
It's not a historical book.
Well, what
it was a book based. Well, it was a novel, but it was also a propaganda piece, and it was very, very, very influential, as you know, in stirring up the abolitionist movement.
Yeah.
And what is Harriet Beecher Stowe's background?
I don't know.
Do you have ministers in her family, perhaps?
Jeez, I have no idea.
No, I
bet you
don't.
Me?
But I think if you study your history, you might find that she did. I want to talk about something else.
Oh, whether or not you have, ministers in the family really has nothing whatsoever to do with whether you're a good or a bad person. I'm sure there are lots of people on death row even that have ministers in the families. I'm sure there are lots of people who've done tremendous good in the world who have no ministers in the family whatsoever. One really has nothing to do with the other, does it? No, it doesn't.
Well, I don't know. I won't say that that's true. But it's not necessarily true that if one has ministers in one's family that one is trying to do away with slavery. I'll say that. However, in her case, that was so.
Oh, that's great.
And this other topic that I wanted to speak on, you asked, why do these people that come into the country want to continue to speak their language? Well, actually, they have an incentive to do so, because about two-thirds of the people that are immigrants to this country are eligible for affirmative action. And as long and as tight as they can hold their differences from the main body of the American public, that increases their chance to get affirmative action benefits. As you will.
Really? What are affirmative action benefits?
Affirmative action benefits is priority. For example, you apply to the University of Florida.
Uh-huh.
And it's much easier to get in if you're from certain ethnic groups than from others.
Yeah, it's also much easier to get in if you play the oboe.
I don't know about that. It's certainly...
Well, I do. It's much easier to get in if you play the oboe.
Well,
to the best of my knowledge, the University of Florida is not under any kind of affirmative action order. They're under no affirmative action order, to the best of my knowledge, whatsoever.
University of Florida looks very closely at...
Oh, yes, every university does.
They accept.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Every university does. As a matter of fact, even Bible colleges make a concerted effort to balance their student body, to make the student body somewhat reflective of the world that the students will be going out into. Every university does that, and to the best of my knowledge, the University of Florida is not under any affirmative action order, so therefore no minority has preference at the University of Florida based upon affirmative action laws.
They do.
No, they don't.
you're telling me that the University of Florida does not give priority on test scores
I just told you the University of Florida, like every school in this country, makes a concerted effort to balance their student body.
Let me ask this question.
They want oboe players, they want males, they want females, they want people of color, they want people who believe in God, they want people who don't believe in God, they want people from the Northeast, they want people from the West, they want people from foreign countries. And affirmative action has nothing whatsoever to do with it.
Do white SAT scores have higher numbers?
Do evangelical Christians frequently lie to make their point?
Does someone come from Haiti?
I think they do.
Preference over an American citizen? Yes.
What was that?
If you get a black coming from Haiti applying to the University of Florida, they are required to have a much lower SAT score to get in than a native Floridian.
No, they're not required to have, no, they are not required to have a much lower SAT score. The University of Florida may, the University of Florida may well decide that they want X
number. You may argue this is crazy if you actually think this.
If you interrupt me one more time, I'm going to hang up.
It's a fact.
Do you understand that? The University of Florida may well make a conscious decision to have X number of Haitians in the student body in the class of 1996 or whatever the hell it would be. And so, therefore, a Haitian who applies to that university might be accepted over someone else simply because that individual is a Haitian, because the University of Florida has made a conscious decision to have some Haitians in the student body, and the Haitian with the highest SAT scores among the Haitians would probably be the one who got in. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the law. It has nothing whatsoever to do with affirmative action. It is a conscious practice that has gone on in this country from day one at that university and every university, including Bible colleges.
Your analysis is totally wrong. If you
no, my analysis is not totally wrong.
The University of Florida versus a black native Floridian, the black native...
You are a stupid ignoramus who is not listening to what I am saying.
Because you don't think.
Bye. There is utterly no purpose whatsoever in continuing the conversation with a stupid ignoramus who is so pig-headed that he will not listen. Let's try it again.
Even your beloved Bible college makes a conscious decision to balance its student body. It wants people from the East. It wants people from the South. It wants people from the West. It wants people from Canada. It wants people who are male. It wants people who are female. It wants people who are related to former alumni. It wants people who have never had a family member attend the college. On and on and on. It wants people who know how to play the oboe so that they can participate in the university band. It wants people who know how to play tennis so that they can have a tennis team. And those people get preferences as they attempt to balance the student body. And it has nothing whatsoever to do with affirmative action. Organizations that are under affirmative action orders from the courts in this country are organizations that have been proven in a court of law of a long-term, deliberate policy of discrimination. Period. But I can only assume that the fine evangelical Christian movement, once in the forefront of the anti-slavery fight in this country, is now in the forefront of spreading disinformation, is now in the forefront of spreading hatred amongst the races, and trying to convince people who don't know any better that them darkies are winning, and we got to do something about it. What a tragedy. You could have participated in the conversation had you been in the least bit polite, and had you at least listened to what I said. Perchance on your next call, you'll remember that. It's 18 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. 22 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. I tried to clean this up last night, but what the hell? If we have functionally literates working at the radio station, I don't see why I should be the only one who knows it. I shall read this precisely as it is written. The only way to really understand the Brian James Show must be spent listening to the entire show in a straitjacket. Thank you. The Brian James Show, weekdays from 4 to 7 on 970 WFLA. And if you can figure out what that means, your name must be Slice. Well, he's the one that always writes the Brian James show promos, right? Yeah, he was probably daydreaming about hockey or something like that, and he wasn't paying attention and didn't realize that the words that he was writing down didn't make any sense. 990 WFLA in Hillsborough, Pinellas 461 WFLA. I really just do not understand the purpose behind gross generalizations, misrepresentations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's go back to the last caller, and let's go back to the initial premise, even before the newscast, that the evangelical movement in this country, a movement that you despise, was in the forefront of the anti-slavery movement, or words to that effect. I paraphrase, not exactly quoting. Well, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that there were probably a great number of people who might be identified as evangelical Christians who were deeply opposed to and appalled by slavery and actively worked against it. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that there were people who might be identified as evangelical Christians, saw absolutely nothing wrong with it, and owned slaves. And on top of that, there really is no such thing as an evangelical movement per se. It's kind of a state of mind. It is a very loose, knit group of people, most of whom, by the way, think that the other people in the group are misinformed about their ideas concerning God, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And will probably rot in hell for not having the right views on God, but that's, again, neither here nor there. Just as I'm sure, for example, that there were Jews who were deeply, deeply opposed to slavery, and yet no one says, would say the foolish thing that the Jews led the fight against slavery, as I'm sure there were Jews who were very much in favor of it. And again, no one would say, I think you get the point. But there's something that just absolutely drives me insane. It just drives me insane. You want to set me off? The easiest way to do it is to spread disinformation about affirmative action. It drives me insane. Because it is something that frankly affects very few people in this country. It is something that, by the way, by and large, only really affects government agencies. There are very few, very, very few private employers that have ever been put under an affirmative action order. By and large, they're police departments and various different county and city and state municipal governments, government agencies. And you are only put under a court-ordered quota after having been taken to court and having demonstrated in court that you have a long history of deliberate discrimination. Then and only then are you placed under an affirmative action order. Then and only then are you ordered by the court to hire X number of this or X number of that. Then and only then. And there are very few private companies that have ever suffered that consequence. And in terms of the universities, has nothing whatsoever to do with affirmative action. I mean, as an example, you stand a somewhat better chance of getting into Harvard University if your dad went there. Therefore, may we say that Harvard University discriminates against people whose fathers did not go to Harvard University? I suppose in the purest sense of the word, we might. But the good folks at Harvard University, just like the good folks at the University of Florida, the good folks at the University of Alabama, the good folks at the University of Iowa, the good folks at the University of Nebraska, feel as though that there is something to be gained by having a family tradition of people attending the same university from the same family. So therefore, they do bend over backwards where possible to give preference where possible to applicants whose parents have attended the university. We might also take it a step further and say that you stand a somewhat better chance of getting into the university if, all other things being equal, you and another applicant apply to the university and you are a chess player and the other applicant isn't. You stand a better chance of getting into the university, especially if they have a chess team. Or if someone on the admissions board, admissions committee, whatever the hell it is properly called, feels as though it might enhance the overall community, the overall academic, the overall university community, if there were some people sitting around playing chess. You might stand a better chance of getting in. Therefore, might we say that that university discriminates against people who don't play chess? No, we might not. And while I do not know what the University of Florida's numbers are. I do not know what their policies are. I do not find it unusual that in a state that has a fairly significant Haitian population that they might make an effort to have X number of Haitian students at the University of Florida and therefore bend over backwards trying to find some to fill vacancies. Has nothing whatsoever to do with affirmative action. It has to do with a long-standing policy in the academic world of trying to balance a student body so that the student body reflects to some degree the world that the students will end up living in. Seems to me to be a very sane policy. I can well understand why, if you're the one that didn't play chess and whose father didn't go to the university, you didn't get in, why you might be just dad pissed. I can well understand that. Take it up with the university. Don't call up my show and spread filth. Let's go to Tampa and Ken. Hi, Ken. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hey, Bob.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Great.
Hey, I listened to your show the first night on WFLA back about a week or so ago, and then tonight I listened again. And I tell you what, I'm one of the people who is going to the conference in Clearwater.
What do you hope to get out of it, man?
Well, wait. Before I tell you that, I have some specific comments to make about your opening monologue.
Okay.
And I know you may be a little hot under the collar because of your last caller, and you were yelling and screaming, and I don't want to be antagonistic, but I have to take issue with a couple of things.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I want to give you all the time that you need. I know you've waited for a long time. I've got to take a 2-minute break for the bottom of the hour news, and then let me put you on hold, then you can back and take issue with me all you want. Is that fair?
Yeah, I got to remember what I was going to talk about.
Okay, well, gather your thoughts. You got about 2 minutes.
All right.
All right, let me put you on hold, line 2, so I don't forget. I'll even write it down here because I got a mind like a sieve. By 15 seconds here to bring it up to the news where it ought to be. I'll tell you, in Hillsborough, it's 990 WFLA. In Pinellas, it is 461 WFLA. Brings us to just about where I ought to be. 9:30 through the time. Back to line 2. Ken, Ken, you still there?
Yeah, Bob.
Okay, have you had time to get your thoughts together?
Kinda.
Okay, lay it on me.
All right. You know, I started thinking back to the first thing I remember was that you said it was time to make our brains hurt. And so I was wondering what that would mean. And as I listened to you describe your morning where you had become aware of the commercial that was running, or it finally got to you and you clicked around on the internet or whatever, and couldn't...
Right, I was just trying to figure out what do those words mean.
Right,
what does this all mean?
And then I realized that, you know, you only had more or less 1 day to prepare for the show. And so if you don't know anything about the James Madison Institute or about the conference or the people that are talking there, then...
No, I admit total ignorance of the James Madison Institute.
I know.
I've never heard of them before.
Yeah, I don't fault anybody for that. But all I'm saying is if I am a researcher for that firm, let's say, hypothetically, and if I was to listen to a radio show where I heard someone who was just totally blasting it out of the water, then, of course, I would have a vested interest in listening very closely. And one of the things that I realized as I heard you talk, and it goes back to, because I used to listen to your show when you were on the other channel, but, you know, you do have a thing where you like to attack religious things. And it seemed like you decided that you would just, that's your pet peeve, and you would...
I never brought up religion. I never mentioned religion in my remarks.
Disguised, in my opinion. But as I listened to you describe this thing, I suddenly realized how totally offended I was by the way you described everything that you knew, which I knew was based upon only half a day. But the words that you used, starting right away by saying that... there were white people in a room who wanted to reclaim their heritage. And that, you know, I remember you talking about how, you know, our heritage is really a combination of a bunch of different cultures,
right?
Which is true. And then I remember you talking about that nobody's ever going to be moral because it's never been a moral nation. It used to be moral to have slaves and murder people through duels and all that. But then, you know, we realized that you...
Well, I brought up these things and wondering just what part of our heritage and culture it is that they're trying to recapture.
I know. And, you know, without knowing that some of the books that the James Madison Institute, had put out, being totally ignorant. I mean, that they're an organization that, for example, would have magazines and books and articles that would talk about if Florida could benefit from a cap on government spending, or if Florida should adopt legislation to protect private property rights. That sort of thing. Real-world issues. None of this pet peeve of yours trying to get down into, are they trying to get in your bedroom? I mean, some of the literature that you're ignorant of is like research. The James Madison Institute, who is putting this thing on, has two aims. One is to do research, and you said later in your monologue that these people will never get to the bottom. They're not going to try to find the truth. Well, that's one of the missions of the James Madison Institute. I mean, I'm one of the analysts, so I should know. And the other is a two-part mission, and the other one is just to stress that capitalism is preferable over all others and that we should find ways to make it happen. Now, they got all kinds of books that compare cost versus benefits, government spending versus performance, things about health care reform. But you took this complex network of people who have got together. Now, we will, or not we, but James Madison will let Margaret Thatcher come on and discuss her point of view, which has to do with the moral foundations of the nation and of a democratic nation. Now, that's her point of view. We'll let her say, we'll let anybody say their point of view. We're tolerant of all points of view, and we want to hear those. If she wants to stress that individuality is very much equally to blame as irresponsibility is in a capitalist society, and wants to, talk about it, we'll let her talk about it. We're not going to just punish people for having this point of view, and that's not even the whole point of the James Madison Institute at all. But for you to sit there and to use inflammatory language, that these were people who were afraid of a bunch of darkies and a bunch of gooks and spicks, that was the words that you used. It was like, I've been me, my job, everything, we've just all been totally slandered by a person who just thinks somehow that even though we're studying all kinds of real-world policy issues, instead he thinks that we're sitting around talking about all kinds of Old Testament rigmarole about and racist. You just said we're a racist because we simply used the word heritage.
No, I didn't say we're racist.
That is amazing.
I beg your pardon. I said nothing of the kind. What I said is reclaiming America's moral and cultural heritage. The words from your spot made me uncomfortable because I didn't quite understand what they meant.
I know.
But this is what it implies.
If you're uncomfortable with something like that, why get on the radio and blast a million listeners, if you have that many, with this worldview that you have that anybody who goes to the conference is a racist?
I said nothing of the kind.
Oh, my God.
I said nothing of the kind. I said I was very suspicious about their motives.
Well. You said that it would be like a Jimmy Swaggart prayer meeting with people prancing around back and forth. I mean, you just decided that, due to a half-day preparation on your part,
well, I doubt very much. Is there anybody scheduled at the conference who's going to talk about the immorality of exploiting labor?
I'm not sure. I'd have to check the program.
It's most unlikely, isn't it?
Okay. So what?
Is there anybody there who's going to be talking about the immorality of, for example, fathering children and leaving the state to pay for them?
No, but I'm sure that issue is being brought up everywhere where this conference is being held. I.e., it's in the newspaper, you're talking about it.
Well, the point is there aren't going to be very many, if indeed any, minority fathers who have abandoned their families in the audience. Just like there are very few fornicators in just like there are very few fornicators and adulterers in Jimmy Swaggart's audience when he's prancing around.
The point of the research of the James Madison Institute, who's putting this shindig on, even though these religious conservatives are doing whatever they're doing, the people behind the scenes are taking account of a lot of data that's coming in from both sides of it. They don't care what's being put on at this thing that they're funding. They could care less. What happens is the social interaction that takes place, and the people like me compile the data. Somebody's probably taking a transcript of this show and putting it down in the file tonight. I'm going to have to get the girl to transcript it. That's what they study, and I shouldn't even be telling you this because I'll probably be fired now. But that's okay. But people like you can blast it, even though you don't know the real world that's going on behind it. That they're going to study the issues, and everything that comes up is perfectly fine and natural. Then the more the better. The more hate and discontent that these conservatives cause, the better the social interaction and discourse that takes place in the conversations of Americans, and they study that so
well. I believe what I said. I believe what I spent the best part of an hour saying is, this is what they're saying. What does this mean? Is there anybody that can explain it to me? This is what it sounds. This is what it sounds like to me. And I believe I've given you 15 minutes to explain your position.
Thank you very much.
Well, you needn't thank me for it. It's what I asked you to do. I told you what it sounded like to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm being mean, but look.
No, you're not being mean.
Well, I just felt bad because when you slandered me.
My last words were, at least that's the way I see it. Perchance
I'm so
you
sorry,
disagree.
but let me tell you this. There are people in the office. There are 15 of us that take down data. We get in. There's the people who have to go through the editorials. They have the worst life of all. But this stuff, everything that goes on in society, I guess some people think that they're newspapers that just get thrown away and no one ever compiles any meaningful, huge, horrible, nightmarish things that have to be proofread and spell-checked and grammar edited before they get sent up the chain. But it's all being studied, and that's what the conference does.
Do you need more time?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Jeez, it's 9:42. Back we are. Let us go to Frank in St. Petersburg. Hi, Frank. You're on the air, 970 WFLA.
Mr. Lassiter.
Yes, sir.
To talk to you. I've been listening to you for 3 years, and this is the first time I've had a chance to talk to you.
Well, all right.
First of all, I'd like to start off way back when the Dutch, the Germans, and the French were basically one of the first peoples on this continent, and they got along well with the quote-unquote American Indians. Then we started receiving the religious, I don't want to say rejects, but the religious
malcontents.
Okay, and I believe after that what started happening is we had such a swarm of them to come into this continent that they were the ones that started to demean the people and bring the people to what they wanted to do, to teach them what they believed in. And once they got over to the West Coast, they started bringing in the Chinese, they started bringing in the Mexicans and everything else. My belief is that was the beginning of the religious right, and it's still here, and they're still working.
Well, I don't know that you're totally accurate. I know that to some degree what you say has to be true. I don't know enough about the history of that period to agree or totally disagree with you.
You may be correcting me, but
no, I'm sure that there were some groups of Indians who just didn't like new people and were very hostile toward them, as well as I'm equally sure that there were some groups of Indians who were probably very hospitable, who had their rights, if you will, infringed upon by the newcomers who tried to mend and change their ways, and the natives vehemently and violently disagreed. I'm sure it was a very, very complex story.
Well, I'm sure it was. As far as what I can remember from history, it definitely was. But the thing was, it was a totally religious thing of these people coming here. And what they were trying to imply on the people that were here were their religious beliefs. And that's, it bothers me in many ways to think that this may be a totally religious thing. I practice Buddhism. I've danced with the Indians. You know, I agree with both of their beliefs, and Christianity, in many ways, scares me.
Christianity shouldn't scare you. The vast majority, the overwhelming majority of people who would classify themselves as Christians are decent, tolerant, understanding, marvelous people.
Well, I do. I know many of them, too. I do.
Well, it's easy to know many of them because, that's the way most of them are.
Yes. But the overall belief, I think, that overwhelms the Christianity sense is what bothers me. I mean, I understand Buddhism. Muslim, I don't know much about, but the American Indian, they had a mysterious way of understanding the earth and everything around them, where Christianity, I believe, deals nothing with mostly personal things, spirituality in themselves. And that's what scares me, and that's what I think I'm seeing today, especially in the world. The problems with the Muslims and the Israelis and Christianity in its whole. Christianity has been a very violent religion in itself. And basically my question is, well, how do you feel about that?
I don't think Christianity has been a violent religion in and of itself.
You don't think
there are zealots. There are zealots within the world of Christendom. There are zealots within the world of Judaism. There are zealots in every religious sector. People who go too deeply, who use God as an excuse to further their political causes or to further their personal greed or to further their prejudices or whatever it might be.
I agree with you when you say excuse.
And I think it's very unfair to say that such and such a religion is violent or such and such a religion is this or that.
No, I didn't say they were
there
violent.
There are elements within any religion.
I didn't say they were violent. I was saying they were trying to overtake, basically. They were driven away from what their religion they had in Europe, and they came here, and I guess I feel like they've overpopulated. Of course, we're going back to way back in the first Bible, or first book of the Bible, when the Jews and everybody else were warring back then too. I guess everybody has their sect, but that's what I'm thinking of today's society here. My personal belief, of course, but I think that there's a strong, righteous right wing of Christianity that is trying to take control of a lot of what we're doing.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
I appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
It's 9:51. See, there's nothing to worry about. The Bolts have damn near tied the game, 6-3. 13 minutes left. Plenty of time. Let's go to St. Pete Beach. Hi there, St. Pete Beach. You're on the air at 9-7 WFLA.
How you doing, Bob?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Good to have you back.
Thank you.
I know you always do a lot of preparation and homework for your show. I tried to do some quickly at the beginning here and see what Mr. Webster had to say on the subject. And on immoral, he said that it relates to the principles of good and bad in behavior, ethical in capital letters. I hadn't heard anyone address that, and I think a lot of it has to do with the ethics that we live under. And I think I'm not an expert or necessarily a religious person, but I think that the basic tenets of all the world's great religions address that. A lot of the teachings were based on ethics, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And
well, in the broadest sweeping sense of the word, yeah, I'd agree with you, but then unfortunately most of the religions, in fact all of it I can think of, I'm just being charitable here and saying most, then get down into such incredible nitpicking detail, most of which really has nothing whatsoever to do with hurting other people.
Absolutely true. And that's what I'm saying, not being an expert, and I know those aren't the only basics of the great religions, but I don't think that we have a very ethical climate in this country right now, from religion to business to interpersonal relationships. And I also believe, like you, that that's, first off, all your examples made that point very clear. The differences between the examples you were using pretty much adhered to what Webster's definition is. And I think you're right that this is not something that these folks are going to be addressing in this conference, that ethical treatment of each other is not something that's really going to be discussed, because it's not something that they want to bring up, not something that they want to admit.
Well, being a genuinely ethical, genuinely moral person requires a great deal of personal sacrifice, because it requires doing unto others as you want them to do unto you, which is something that apparently is not an inherent, inbred human quality.
No, I guess not.
We all try to screw the other guy for our own advantage. And then, of course, cry terribly when the other guy screws us.
You think all of us do?
I think we do to a degree. Obviously, we're talking about everything here as relative. Some of us are far worse at it than others, but to a degree, sure we do.
Okay, agreed. Huh.
You know, we'll just take something as simple as gossiping about other people. We all do that, and God, how we hate it when it's done about us.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Huh. Been a great show.
Hey, well, thank you.
I've missed you immensely and never got to say this to you before. Just before you left 620, I was very appreciative of the fact that you gave the whole story behind you and Neil. It was something that had been alluded to over the time, and I was glad you brought that all together just personally for me. So.
Well, I would be dishonest not with you. I would be dishonest with myself, and I have never been in this particular case. I sit where I sit tonight. I live where I live. I've enjoyed the life that I've enjoyed because a very bizarre man about a dozen years ago recognized that I had an ability and a potential future in this business when no one else did, and that guy's name was Neil Rogers. Mm-hmm. We were never close personal friends. I don't think Neil has a close personal friend. And I regret very, very much that we do not speak any longer and probably never will again. And it's all over, you know, incredibly stupid pettiness, but I'll be damned if I'm going to give him the opportunity to hang up on me, so I won't call him. And I suspect that he probably feels the same way about me, that he'll be damned if he'll give me the opportunity to hang up on him. And it's a tragedy. It's one of life's human tragedies. But I frankly owe everything I have to that man and have no qualm in saying so.
Well, I appreciated you telling the story, and I'm just sorry you never got a chance to get back to that jerk that suckered you on that last call there. So.
No, there were about a dozen of those jerks over the years at SUN that apparently don't have lives and just really enjoy messing with other people's lives.
All right. Frogs.
Hey, be good.
Yep.
Oh, look at that. Just about time to say frog to all of you. We'll do it again tomorrow night. So for all practical purposes, ladies and gentlemen, the show's over.